both sides of the conversation family. We welcome you to this virtual space crafted especially for you. My name is Jada Curry, and I'm both sides of the conversation's marketing director and graphics design specialist. I want to take some time to ground us all as a community into this space we are about to open up in, so let's go through our community standards. Both sides of the conversation is providing a safe and honest space for open conversation, so we ask that you all be respectful of that. We also ask that you be respectful of each panelist, host, and participant. We do encourage healthy debates and conversations. Don't personalize anything with anyone. This includes name-calling, bullying, trolling, or shaming. This will not be allowed or tolerated. Your perspective is yours. It is not a prescription. You do not have to agree, but show respect. These community standards apply to all of our live shows and any virtual spaces that we hold on social media, including YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We want to make sure that we are caring for each other as a community. This is our priority in all of our endeavors as both sides of the conversation. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's show and continue to stay in touch with us via YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or all of them. All right, thank you for listening and see you soon.
Welcome, everybody, to Both Sides of the Conversation. I'm John Henry, Executive Director. Today is Thursday, so you know what that means. We're going to have another educational presentation as we, every week, try to intentionally get information and resources to our community that sometimes our community don't necessarily get. Tonight, we have a phenomenal presentation. We're going to have Shawna Sherman of the San Francisco Public Library to come on and talk about the review of the African American Center at the San Francisco Public Library, as well as some of the new policies and programs that's going on, and going to share a wealth of information for our community. But with that being said, before we get started, I just want to go into a couple of our community announcements before we get started with tonight's presentation. First of all, I want to give a huge shout out to the Mega Black family, Wealth and Disparities, Felicia Jones. What a phenomenal event today at City Hall for the Community Appreciation Day. All of the community showed up in drones today to come out and support Mega Black, Wealth and Disparities, and a number of other organizations. And it was just nice to see our mayor come out and step out for a second and talk with community. We had President Walton out there. We had a number of the other supervisors out there, Matt Haney, Brother Asha Safi, I can never say his name right, in district over in OMI, EJ. We had SF Black Wall Street out there, Us for Us. We had Shug, a number of community organizations, Collective Impact. Just nice to see the community come together and support this Community Appreciation Day. As we know, so many times community organizations are doing their best out in the community, trying to bless the people. And it was just nice to have that appreciation, to see everybody out listening to music, dancing, eating, and having a good time. So phenomenal event. And want to thank all of the community organizations, community leaders, Marianne Jones, Miss Evelyn, all of them just coming up, giving me love and support. As you all know, my mom passed last week, and her services is this Saturday. So just want to thank you all for just embracing me today. This is what I needed, to be out in the community. And it was just nice to see all the people in fellowship. So thank you all. And I definitely appreciate it. With that said, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Collective Impact, YCD, Silent Tunes, Feline Finesse, Family Equity Partners, a number of organizations that are behind both sides of the conversation, continue to push this platform forward. So just want to give those acknowledgments and those shout outs to those organizations and thank them for all that they do. The Human Rights Commission, our Dreamkeeper Initiative, and Director Cheryl Davis for just being a supporting community and making sure that our organizations move forward. So just want to thank all of them for that. With that being said, we're going to jump into a couple of community announcements, and then we'll start tonight's presentation. Today or yesterday, it was announced that California County Riverside was going to pay $11 million to a wrongfully convicted man who served 20 years in prison. Nice to hear that. Unfortunate, 20 years later, this situation is being resolved. But a former Riverside man, served 20 years in prison after being exonerated by DNA. I guess they said that he committed the homicide of his then girlfriend. He is now 63 years old, living in Carolina, and he did sign the settlement agreements, and the county is to pay the lawsuit on September 28th. So unfortunate, but good to see a brother getting some acknowledgement for that wrongful conviction. So just nice to see that happening. Also, Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia reached a settlement with Renika Young over a violent incident that took place in 2020 as police had a violent encounter with her, and they settled out a $2 million settlement with that young mother who had her toddler with her, and police just, so many times we see happening aggressive with the people in our community. So just nice to see some of the justice actually happening in our community. As we know, these things are continuing to happen. Unfortunately, community, I heard yesterday that Congress was not able to come together and work bipartisan to get the police bill signed. It is sad to just see that we are still having these issues, all of the people coming together for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. And again, our people are still not getting true equity and justice. And that's why we have to continue to come together, move, have these calls of action, and really hold our elected officials accountable to make sure that we get true equity and we get true closure with some of these things, and making sure that we pull these people accountable to handle these situations that are impacting our communities. It is sad to hear that they couldn't get that pulled off. Again, we have a lot of work to do. It is not time to sit down and say we have victory because we have a new president. There is still work that needs to happen that's impacting our community. And we'll continue to get information as more and more rallies and people are trying to get behind and put pressure on Congress to get this passed. Again, even in that police bill, as you all know, I am against it. There's a lot of stuff in there that doesn't hold our police accountable, and I want to see more stuff in that. But hopefully, because it didn't pass, we have an opportunity to come together as community and push our elected officials and get the right things in place to help protect our community when we're dealing with community and policing. With that being said, we're going to go into our community events. There are a number of events going on this weekend in the community. We will be out at a number of these events. Our Both Sides of Conversation team, myself, I'll be maneuvering, going through the first one. We're going to have a community cleanup in the Alice Griffin Double Rock. This is going to be a great event. There's a number of community partners that'll be out there helping. There'll be a resource fair as well. We'll have Feline Dance Group doing a performance out there, but we'll have a number of community organizations working together to clean up our community. As we know, we have to work together to keep our community clean, especially in D10. We know it's turned into a dumping site. Sometimes contractor, outside folks come in and just dump in our community. We can't have it, but nice to see community coming together to help clean up our community, because we know if our community is looking good, we feel good, and it's better for all in the community. So SF Police will be in partnership with this, Public Works, Operation Genesis, YCD, Us for Us, Both Sides of Conversation, 100% College Prep, Feline Dance Group, and a number of organizations that'll be out there this Saturday at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We'll be out in at Carroll and Arnelius Walker Way, down in the Alice Griffin, so-called, Double Rock that we call it. Also, Green Action for Health and Environmental Justice Community Celebration will also be held this Saturday from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll get that information out to community if you want to be a part of that. It's an in-person celebration. It'll be located at 1605 Gerald Avenue. There'll be a virtual part of this as well. They'll have pizza and different things of that nature. We'll be putting up the links and information in the chats. Also, you could go to B Magic to get the Zoom link or any other information associated with that event. The Fillmore Square Job Training, faith-based culinary training. We had Brother Tyrone on Tuesday night. He was one of our hidden gems talking about the organization. They are looking for about 6 to 9 participants. Please reach out to Tyrone. We'll put that information up so that you guys can be a part of it. The Be Magic Family Day for residents of Bayview will be happening every day at 2401 Keith Street. every day from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And they will be extending their hours, which is tonight, every Thursday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Please reach out to Be Magic if you want to be a part of that event. The Bayview Hunters Point Park is going to do that collaboration with the RX to host a zero waste gardening shop at Heron Park, 32 Jennings Street at the Eco Center. Please sign up if you all want to be a part of that. We want to get our young people a part of the Eco Center. They are doing some phenomenal events to impact our young people, not only just cleaning up our environment, but taking kids on fishing trips and doing a lot of activities to help our community. We're going to be getting them on our platform real soon as we continue to reach out to them to schedule a date. So you'll all be seeing them and talk about some of the programming that they have coming up. The Phoenix Day Block Party event is coming up October 17th. It's going to be on the San Francisco Sunday Streets.com block party. Please register, get the information, go to SF Sunday Streets block party, and we'll get that information up as well for community. And then for both sides of the conversation, we have our continued conversation coming up. Tonight is our Educational Thursday. Y'all know that every Thursday at 6 p.m. This Sunday, we will be having another community conversation. This Sunday at 2 p.m., we are talking about housing and some of the property management companies that are over our housing developments. You heard about the young sister who passed because of the poor housing and living conditions. We're going to talk about that. We're going to have some of our attorneys and different people to come on to talk about what's going on. How can we come together to have conversations with some of the management companies that manage our housing spots. We'll hear from some of the tenants and hear some of the poor conditions that our people are living in. And we have to hold these management companies accountable, as our people should not have to live in those poor conditions here today in San Francisco. Also, we have a number of events coming up live here at both sides of the conversation on October 3rd. That Sunday, we'll be having our drug abuse conversation. We'll be connecting with the San Francisco Adult Probation, as well as some of the reentry programs. They're going to be talking about the drug abuse, the homelessness that's impacting our city. As you all know, this fentanyl, this opiate overdosing in our community has been impacted, not only here in San Francisco, but across this country, as we are over the 700 mark of people who have died of fentanyl. Sad situation. But we have a number of organizations that are coming together to kind of talk about what we could do and how we can impact our communities when we're talking about substance abuse. Very, very important conversation. So looking forward to that conversation on October 3rd. And then the Sunday of October 10th, we'll be talking about breast cancer awareness, a very, very important conversation in our community that we need to have to continue to educate the women of our community, get checked, get tested, as this breast cancer is taking out a lot of our Black women in our community. So we want to have that conversation as well. With that being said, this Saturday as well, we'll be at Cafe Envy at 5 o'clock for the 3rd Street Humbre Block Party. We'll be out there with the San Francisco African American Culture District with Sister Erica Scott, a number of community leaders. This should be a great event. You'll see me out there at 5 p.m. We'll be setting up. Our both sides of the conversation team will be out there. Another great event. And we're just looking forward to be in partnership with community. So with that being said, I'm going to land my plane, close my mouth. That's enough of a community events and what's going on. Thank you all. Tonight, we're going to go ahead and bring up our presenter for tonight, Ms. Shawna Sherman from the San Francisco Public Library, to come give our community some great information and things that's going on at the San Francisco Public Library. With that being said, welcome to tonight's show. Ms. Shawna, go ahead and introduce yourself to the community.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here on Educational Thursdays. I'm so grateful and appreciative of the chance to let you know about all the services that the San Francisco Public Library has for community. Like John said, I'm Shawna Sherman, the manager of the African American Center here at the main library. Earlier this year, I started work as the manager, and I'm so glad to be here as the library slowly is opening up for regular services to tell you about all the things that are happening here, as well as run through some of the things on our website that you can use with your library card. So I'm going to get started by sharing my screen really quick, and just give me a moment.
Okay, it's up. It's up. It's up. Yep, it's up.
Thank you. All right, so in this presentation, I'll first get started by talking about my positionality, about who I am as a librarian, and where I stand in the space of libraries and in San Francisco. Next, I'm going to share a little short history of the library and its service to the African American community, some of which I've recently learned while working on an article about the first Black administrator here, who was Effie Morris, she was a coordinator of children's services. And she worked here from 1963 to 1978 as the first Black supervisor in the system. Then I'll share a short history of the African American Center and tell you about some of the upcoming programs we have. And finally, I'll try to answer any questions you might have about the library and also share where on the library's website you can find some free classes, free museum passes, and other online resources. So before I get to who I am, I want to acknowledge that I live and work on the occupied land and am currently broadcasting from the homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone people. So I've been a librarian for 15 years. My first job was as a teen librarian at the Hayward Public Library. I then moved to be a teen librarian here at the Visitation Valley branch, where I worked for about 3 years before becoming the librarian for our bookmobile called the Techmobile, where I went around the city giving tech classes to youth and adults. And then I worked as the African American Center librarian here at the main library, and then recently became its manager earlier this year. In all my positions, I've worked like my Black librarian ancestors to do all I can to support Black and Brown youth in helping them succeed in life. So in this way, I hope to live up to the work of librarian ancestor Effie Morris, who you see pictured here. She was a nationally known children's librarian from Cleveland who also worked in New York for the Library of the Blind. She was hired here to professionalize the library's services to children. After the Chronicle ran a series critical to the library and which prompted an audit and which they suggested that the library professionalize its staff. As the children's coordinator in charge of 28 branch librarians, Morris emphasized the need for the library to pay attention to its ordering and especially how they were buying books representing Black children and other children of color, and especially how they were, and also emphasize outreach to Black and Brown communities. She had learned all this as a woman born in the Jim Crow era, raised as a race woman, eager to do the best she could for her community. She entered librarianship, which I think it was in the 1940s, which was a predominantly white profession then, and some would argue is a predominantly white profession now, pushing against these structures by bringing Black history programming to her Cleveland branch. She continued the tradition in San Francisco in 1969 by instituting the library's first Black history program for children, which was a panel of 5 authors she flew in from around the country through her connections with publishers. In San Francisco, the library depended on Morris to be a gateway to the Black community, and she volunteered to be a liaison to community groups, especially in programs that dealt with children. She motivated her staff to think about stereotypes in literature, and monthly they reviewed books in an early form of decolonizing the collection, which means removing inaccurate books from circulation, but also making them available as reference books in a collection that's now actually called the Effie Morris Historical Collection. I put a picture of Little Black Sambo on here because that was a very controversial book back when she first started librarianship, with which they pushed publishers to change because of its stereotypical representation of children, of Black children, and we're not showing that here for obvious reasons. Her innovations are still with us today. Morris started the first system-wide summer reading program in the city, and she was an early proponent of what we call We Need Diverse Books. Morris was also active in helping form the Black Caucus of the American Library Association to improve the conditions for Black library workers, some of whom in the Jim Crow era had been going to national conferences and had to stay in segregated hotels when they did so. Here's a quote that she read on the floor of the National Library Association meeting in, I believe, I'm sorry, I don't have the date, 1972. Black librarians are especially concerned about the effects of institutional racism, poverty, the continued lack of educational employment and professional opportunities for Blacks and other minorities, she said. Although these library issues have been condemned, the library profession has been slow in responding to these problems. The activism she showed at the Black Caucus spilled into library life at SFPL, where Black employees in 1973 demanded they be treated better by administration and also complained the treatment they received was replicated in the treatment given to Black patrons by staff, meaning Black patrons would come in and, some of the staff might ignore them. So the library launched an affirmative action program then, but in a 1974 survey, Morris told fellow librarian E.J. Josie it was only window dressing. Later, Morris reported to her staff in meeting minutes there was an incident when her office here, well, not here at the main library, but at the old main library, was ransacked and the name of Black employees crossed out on some papers. When she applied for the job of city librarian, the commission changed the rules and made the interviews public. She didn't get the job, and then she took a leave of absence, resigned 7 months later. Upon her leaving, the local NAACP charged discrimination. An article in the Sun Reporter said, she has received almost every national honor as a librarian, but Effie Morris was never seriously considered when the city was searching for a library director. A 1978 survey, Library Services in San Francisco, Citizen Usage and Attitudes, showed a majority of library users were white, English-speaking, and college-educated, and people who reported never using the library responded they didn't know where the libraries were and found it difficult using the service in English. So you may wonder why I'm bringing all this up, because it might, it all happened 50 years ago, but I bring it up as background to place the African American Center in its proper context. A reflection mirrored in the Black Space Manifesto concept of reckoning with our past to build the future. Since Morris, we've had 2 more Black library administrators at SFPL, including the beloved Linda Brooks Burton, who was the former manager of the Bayview branch and who many of you might have known. Though we've made much progress, more change could come. Today, we as a city acknowledge through our racial equity plans that there is work government still needs to do to redress the harms done to the Black and other communities of color in this city. As a co-chair of the library's Racial Equity Committee, I realize there is a long road to travel and am working through the challenges we face trying to get there. So now I'm going to be talking more about the African American Center. So this year is the 25th anniversary of the African American Center. During the fundraising drive to build and furnish the 6th-floor main library building, the San Francisco Library Foundation reached out to local communities to create spaces here for ethnic and other groups, calling them affinity centers. When the main library opened in 1996, so did the African American Center. The Black community in SF raised over $500,000 in funding for the Affinity Center under the leadership of Dr. Arthur H. Coleman and Mrs. Renee Coleman. Major donors included Mayor Willie Brown, Delta Sigma Theta sorority, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, sorry, Bethel AME Church members, Third Baptist Church members, May Louise and Willie Mays, among many others. The picture here is the flyer for the first program held on behalf of the center, a celebration of Harlem Renaissance writers. Pride in the African American Center among the Black community here was highlighted for me when Barbara Rogers asked the Chronicle to film her in the center for a recent profile they did on her for the SF Chronicle. So I don't think I mentioned that the African American Center is actually on the 3rd floor of the main library, and the main library is at 100 Larkin Street in the city's Civic Center. So in the years following the founding of the center, the center would collect books, host exhibits and programs celebrating our Black community. This is a sample of some of the programs held over the years, including a book festival, the program Unsung Heroes, which celebrated community leaders for 20 years. The center currently holds more than 5,000 materials by and about Black history and culture, including the full set of the 19th century Black women writers, MLK's writings, Black comics, and an impressive collection of Black poetry, including some Dunbar first editions. Since its founding, there have also been librarians assigned to collect for the center, meaning we buy the books and run the programs. Including Amy Holloway, Stuart Shaw, Naomi Jelks, and myself. A new position was added to the center 2 years ago, and now I work as the manager for the AAC under Naomi, who is now the 3rd floor manager here. And I also work with a new librarian at the center named Natalie Enright. So here are Natalie and I with Lava Thomas recently at the library. I don't know if you all know Lava Thomas. She was commissioned to create a statue of Maya Angelou, which will be installed in front of the library on the Larkin Street steps. And I'm so excited for that.
Shawna, have you started your slides? Because the slides haven't moved. I just want to make sure that
They haven't moved at all?
No, you're on the first slide still. You have to press play on your slide. Sorry.
Uh-oh. Okay, well, I'm almost all the way through it. Let's see. I don't know what to do. You can't see it move at all?
Okay, it's going through now. Yeah, I don't know if you have to press play for it, but I didn't know if you was talking or not, but I just wanted to make sure that the slides, we didn't get no slides. When you said, look at this picture, I'm like, is she supposed to be going to the slides?
Oh my goodness. I hope everybody heard me.
Or maybe you could, we heard you. I think the slides wasn't moving through as you was doing it. So.
Okay, I'm trying to just pull up a PDF that might be easier, and then I can scroll. I don't know. Maybe you can see it here on this side. I don't know.
Yeah, you just have to get it up on the main screen. I see them on the side, but I'm not seeing the main screen change. So maybe you have to play it or, present it.
Okay, I thought I had it in presentation mode, but I'm going to do it this way. Can you see this now?
Not right now. You're at the page where it says the main library is open for regular hours.
What do you see now?
Oh, you removed the presentation. You're not up there. You have to reshare it.
Okay.
It's all right. Take your time. It's okay. Take your time. Things happen. That's okay. This is both sides of the conversation.
Yeah,
Things happen.
Here we are. I'm doing this. I'm doing a PDF now. Can you see this?
Yep. Now it's off. Yeah, it's up there now.
All right. Well, here's everything else I just talked about. There's that picture of Little Black Sambo. I noticed I crossed out the stereotypical images. Here's the Effie Morris's quote. A little image on the Black spaces. Here's that first image at the African American Center, the Harlem Renaissance program they held. Here's some of the I'm just running through the slides real quick. Here's some programs we've held in the past. Here's the Unsung Heroes. There's so many things that have come before me. Just wanted to show that. And here we are. This is me.
Now we see the pictures of you. Okay, there we go.
I should have just done this at the beginning. This is me. This is Lava Thomas in the middle. She's an artist that was commissioned to do the statue of Maya Angelou in front of the library. We're so excited to have that coming soon. Hopefully in the fall, it'll be on Larkin Street. And on the right here is Natalie. She's the new librarian at the African American Center and just bringing a new energy with a whole bunch of cool programs coming up that she's planning. So here we are on my slide where I stopped. So the library is now open. The main library is open for our full regular hours, meaning we have evening hours now, open to 8 on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. All of our branches except for the Mission branch, which is under renovation, and the Marina branch, which is having some roofing work done. But all the rest of the branches are open on a modified schedule. I believe they're open 5 days a week. I can show you on the website where to get that. Here's the big one, free printing at the library. At any of our libraries, you have up to $10 a day of free printing through November 1st. So $10 a day in free printing means about 100 pages in black and white. I believe we charge 40 cents for color. My brain is a little mushy right now. I can't do the math for that, but it's a lot of printing. Every day you have $10 of free printing. After November 1st, it'll go down to $2 a day, which is still about, 20 pages in black and white. So still a pretty good deal. We're also doing in-person and virtual programming right now, and I'll show you a little bit about that. So coming up on October 17th on Zoom at 4 p.m., we're going to be hosting a panel of authors talking about hair. It's called Trauma, Tresses, and Truth, Untangling Our Hair Through Personal Narrative. So hope you can join us for that program. You can register at the bit.ly link on the screen. I'll also put it in the chat at some point. To go along with this, we'll be also hosting an exhibit on our hair. It's called Ode to Hair. Oh, it's an ode to us, a celebration of Black hair, which will feature just a bunch of cool images of us and our hair, some snippets of writing, and a cool Instagram wall that we can take pictures in front of. So next, I wanted to just go through some of the e-learning resources that we have on the website. So I'm going to stop sharing this PDF and see if you'll see, John, you're going to have to help me to see if you can see the website.
Okay, yeah, I can see the screen. You're at the library's homepage.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So this is our library homepage, and I hope I'll just go through the basics first. Everybody can get a library card if you're a California resident. Library cards are free. You can come into any location of SFPL. There's 27 branches in the main. To get a library card, you usually show a picture ID, and if your picture ID has your address, then you can get a card with that. If it doesn't, you can bring a piece of mail. If you don't have anything proving your address, you can still walk away with a card that will give you digital access to all the resources that we have on this website. Also want to let you know that we're a fine-free library now, so there are no fines on your books as long as you return them. So I wanted to go through some of the e-learning resources that we have on this website, because everybody knows about the books we have. But if you guys need any other help, I'm happy to run through some things. And, John, if you see anything in the chat, just feel free to interrupt me so I can go to there. But under this Research and Learn tab, this is where you can find a lot of the e-learning resources that I'm going to talk about today. So here we have e-learning, with this little profile of a person and the light bulb. So clicking on this page, I'm going to make it a little bigger, and I'm trying to scroll slowly so I don't hurt your brains. So here are all the different e-resources that we have that can help, whether or not you want to get a DMV, a new DMV, take a permit test or whatever, or, learn a new skill like programming. So the first thing I want to look at is Career Online High School. So this is an accredited online high school where you can get a diploma online, and it's free. In order to sign up for this, You're going to need to fill out the self-assessment, begin a 2-week prerequisite course, and then after you complete the course, you get contacted by the librarians at the bridge at the main to see if you are eligible to be enrolled in these courses. So this online high school also has these career certificates. And there's more facts on the website about this program and the number here if you want more information. And this program is run out of the bridge, which is also at the main library on the 5th floor. They also do a lot of computer basics classes. They have a computer basics drop-in class on Tuesdays from 1 to 2:30, where you can come in and get all your questions answered about any kind of computer basic information you want, whether it's on your phone or a computer or on a laptop. So that's Career Online High School. And remember, I got this at the ELearning page. Towards the bottom, there are a lot of different we partner with a lot of different third-party vendors to offer other courses. Like there's a bunch of language learning web resources here, including Mango Languages. I won't show them, but I want to show these other ones. So there's LinkedIn Learning. This is what used to be lynda.com. So if anybody's familiar with Lynda, then this website has a host of videos for tons of topics, whether it's Word, Excel, how to start a business. There's just a ton of different videos here. I'm going to type in my library card number so to get in. So any of these resources is going to ask you for your library card number and your PIN. You can chat with us to update your card if your card is no longer active, or you want to check if you have a card. You can always call us to see if you have a card. Our number is 415-557-4400. So this is just the main interface for LinkedIn Learning, which used to be lynda.com. And as you can see there, there's a ton of videos. And if you wanted to, I don't know what people might want to learn, but there's a ton of different things in here. You just type what you want here and then see all the videos that they have available. And you can learn at your own pace. So that's LinkedIn Learning, sorry. And I'm going back. Any questions in the chat?
So right now, there's no questions. Everybody's saying great resources. They're saying great. People are saying that you work with them at the library. That's about it so far. No questions yet. I'll have some questions at the end for you.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So that was LinkedIn Learning at the library. So that's like, just go click in there and watch videos at your own pace. Yeah. Here we have Treehouse. And Treehouse has a bunch of information on like coding and different coding languages if you're interested in learning that. So there's a special registration you have to do for Treehouse. And when you click on it, it sort of explains it here. You have to send a request to get a Treehouse account because I think we're only allowed a certain amount. And then check your email. You tell that I'm sort of reading this now. But, check your email that they responded to the request, and then they'll activate your account for you. So that there's a little longer process to get into Treehouse, but these are like serious courses that go through like step by step, like HTML1, HTML2, HTML3. And I think they have tests, practice sessions, ways that you can, learn how to code on this website. It's a very good resource for learning all those different coding languages. The next one here is Udemy. This is a Gale. This is from the Gale company called Gale, which I actually used to work for. So they also have video courses. It's a little different than LinkedIn Learning, where you can just sort of watch the video and learn like that. These are courses that you watch, but at your own pace. And you have to, when you sign up for them, you watch them through and take quizzes, things like that. You can search. You sign into this same way you sign into this using your Google account. I won't go into that, but if anybody wants more information, I'd be happy to help. Okay, I'm going to move from our e-learning page and show you where you can. I'm going to just type in here.
Now, one quick question before you leave the e-learning. So yes, you have to have a library card and account to access those training, or is that just part of the LinkedIn Learning, or do you have to have the San Francisco Public Library card to get access to those learning hubs?
Right, all these different things you need the library card to get access to. And as I mentioned, you can always call us to check to see if if your card is active, and they'll reactivate it over the phone. Reactivate it over the phone or chat, or just go into any branch and you can replace your card for free.
Now, one quick question. People who want to utilize the San Francisco Public Library, is it just for San Francisco residents, or if somebody outside in Daly City, Pacifica, or somewhere else, can they utilize those services, or is it only to San Francisco residents?
Cool. It's actually anybody in California can get a San Francisco Public Library card. You just have to come into the library to get it. So yes, you can be from Daly City, you could be from Los Angeles. You could have a card at the San Francisco Public Library. Cards are active for 4 years, and you can chat with us to renew your card. Yeah. Thanks for that question. So I have a link in something else to get to this Discover and Go. I should know exactly where it is on this website, but sorry. Here, I'm going to go to YouTube now. So San Francisco Public Library has a YouTube page. And since we've been in the pandemic, we've done a lot of our programming online, which means that we've been able to record a lot of it. And it now lives on this YouTube page. So I'm going to go to playlists here and show you the Black Interest page, which has some of the programs that we've done through the center, and also other programs that we've done throughout the year. Hoping this is helpful. Where am I? Where was that Black? I forget I need to click here, view full playlist, to see everything that's there. Okay, so here we go. Here's everything. So here is all the different presentations the library has held this year that you can watch at your own pace. Lots of great authors. Frank Wilderson talking about Afro-pessimism. Dante Clark is a local Richmond poet. Great book, Closed Caskets. What the Black Woman Body Knows, Addressing Trauma Through Art Practice. A very inspiring conversation with these 3 authors, including Wanda Sabir, Fania Davis, Lorraine Bonner, artists. So lots of what we've done is I put in this link. And here, if you go to our YouTube page and go to that Black Interest site, this is that panel, Trauma, Trusses, and Truth. It'll be streaming on YouTube as well as in Zoom. So hope to see you there. Let's see. Any other questions?
Well, not at this time, but I'll wait when you finish, and then I can go over a couple of things that I would like to ask.
Oh, okay. I'll just finish, and then we can come back just in case there is other questions. Am I back? Oh,
yep.
Hi.
Hey,
Hello.
so
Hi. Sorry.
that was phenomenal. As I said, community, they didn't have questions tonight because I think, again, the presentation was great. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, and I think that's just phenomenal that I didn't even think about, that resource, is the high school program. So is that like a GED program or something like that?
Actually, it's not a GED. It's an accredited online high school. So it's like a real high school, but like GED is just a certificate. Yeah, it's different. It's a high school. It's an actual high school diploma, and it's accredited. So the website says that you should check, like, if you want to go, most colleges should accept it, like, if you're going on for more learning, but you should check with your college just to make sure that, that it'll accept it, if that's the goal.
I guess I'm more trying to focus on our young people. We have so many young people who deal with different situations where they can't get to school for whatever reason, whether it's crossing certain city sectors, who may, I guess my question is, will that be utilized for employment? I guess, is it somewhat like a GD where we can, some of these young people who may have lost credits, been out of high school for a while, we're always looking for ways to re-engage them in the educational realm, but also making sure that they have the right documentation to get into the employment sector.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just like a GED, but it's like a real high school diploma. Mm-hmm.
And how long is that course setup? I know it said there's a 2-week prerequisite. Is it 6 weeks? Is it 6 months? Or after the person takes that assessment, a typical, I know it could change different, different people, different
right.
Standards, but just so that I can also talk to some of our young folks that we interact with who may be having trouble reconnecting, getting back into the adult school or whatever. This is a resource that we can utilize to educate. And this is why this is important for you to come here tonight to kind of educate community. I haven't utilized the library in a long, long time. I have to check with Linda and see if my card is still valid. It's been a long time, but I mean, the involvement of, the San Francisco Library and just what you all are doing. I know they have a Patola branch now by E.R. Taylor. When I was a young person, we didn't have all these branches and things like that. It was so hard to access. But with the evolution of technology, you being a librarian it's kind of a unique thing. It kind of brought me back to my elementary age, because that's when I really utilized the library. But with the digital technology taking over, how is this impacting, libraries, booking? Everybody's going to these digital ebooks and audiobooks. How much is that impacted? I know a lot of people still just, old fashioned, and some folks still like to just pick up a book and read. But is that going away? Are you seeing that happening as space becomes limited, as our resources continue to be impacted? Are you seeing more of the libraries shifting and transitioning to this digital model, or is it still a little ways out?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So first, you mentioned the Career Online High School. We have a fax page, and they say it takes about 18 months to complete, and it's all online. It's all in English. There's no textbooks, and there is like a graduation. And in terms of e-resources, yeah, I just saw a presentation on this from our circulation department. Our ordering department. During the pandemic, of course, right, we were all closed. So that's basically what the library had, was all these e-resources. So they made a card digitally available, and then, just bumped up all our ebook collections. So, maybe our e-resources hadn't been as high as our print or hardbound books. But then the graph that they showed, during the pandemic, now it's different. I can't do it. But anyway, like, our circulation of print went down and our circulation of e went up, way, 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 way up. So the library had been doing a lot of buying of ebooks. So, I mean, in terms of like ebooks, San Francisco has one of the biggest ebook collections. So if you're interested in ebooks, definitely check that out. And I could actually show you where all those ebooks platforms are. on the website.
Now, is any of those audiobooks on that YouTube page, or you have to go to a certain sector for that?
Yeah, so the ebooks are in our catalog. The YouTube page I showed you was just all of our programming. Like, we have in-person programs at the library. Actually, we're going to have author Keenan Norris here to talk about his book in November. So those are all our what we call programs, where we invite authors to speak or do demonstrations and things like that. Ebooks are in our library catalog. I can show you where. Basically, if you search in our catalog for a book, it'll show you all the different versions that we have, whether it's print, ebook, e-audio, CD audio. There's just a ton of different formats for books, plus a ton of different platforms. Like we could have an ebook in 3 different platforms, right? So yeah, you get those through our catalog.
That's pretty cool. I'm glad to hear that for community. I am like in this new age of audiobooks. I only can get through these books while I'm in the car driving. I don't have the physical time as much to sit there to read. But I've been learning so many great books just listening as I'm driving through. So I know the audiobooks it works for me. I know every person has a different way they receive and get information. But for me, I've found audiobooks to be great. Some people don't like them because of the voice or the overlays or whatever. But for me, moving around the barrier traffic, doing different things, it is great to get through some of those books and get that information. So I definitely want to check out some of those ebooks. But I also wanted to transition back to the African American Center, just kind of get a little bit more in depth in, what does that center bring for the Black community? There was a time where in the San Francisco libraries, it was hard to get Black resources as far as books that was Black authors, Black made, and I think that's some of the problems that we're having in our school district, getting the right books that are Black led, Black driven. Is that center going to be that hub for that? Is that one of the things that is going to bring, or is it just going to be some of the other things from an African culture standpoint?
Yeah, totally. So the African American Center has more than 5,000 volumes in books, and it's mostly books by African American authors. We're on the 3rd floor. We're in the northwest corner of the main library on the 3rd floor. And we cover the whole, library is broken up by the Dewey Decimal System, but the African American Center covers it all. So whether it's like health or art or biographies, it's all in the center. Right now it's a reference collection, so that people can, so that the books stay, we stay here, but we're reconsidering that because we've seen that it's sometimes hard for people to, like you go into the center, you want to just grab the book and go, right? But now you have to go in there, grab it, and then find where else it circulates in the library. But we do have, just a ton of historical books there. Like I mentioned earlier, some of first editions of Paul Laurence Dunbar's poetry, the 19th century Schomburg, personally. So you can see the books that we have up here in the 3rd floor, and then we also have a storage area downstairs. And I've been like geeking out on our, we have like a full volume set of this runaway slave ads from the colonial period that I've been reading through. So it's just like there's just a ton of different histories there. You have my contact information up here, correct? So I'm a librarian. My job is to be a researcher and find information for people. So if anybody's looking for anything having to do with Black history, I can, I'm always available to help try to find it, whether it's in our library or in another library. The San Francisco Public Library has a couple agreements with libraries around the country to get books to us here when they're not necessarily in our system. So there's a thing called Link Plus where we can grab books from other places, and you can also do an interlibrary loan. And I'd be happy to assist finding any information that anybody might need, whether it's in our collection or in another collection.
Wow, that's great information. Because with San Francisco being less than 5% African American, a lot of these public facilities are shifting to other cultures and information because of the percentage of Black folks are, so slim here in the city. So it's just great and honor to have you here as one of us to fight to keep our culturally appropriate stuff and books being ordered by our folks into the library. I mean, I know it's always a challenge in these spaces, advocating for us when the mass majority of numbers is other ethnic groups and their voices become louder, and a lot of times they get the funding. So it's just nice to have you there to also advocate for community, and this is very important community. But as a librarian, I'm very big on education. I know a lot of our leaders are, Director Davis is big on education, but from a librarian standpoint, to community, we're always trying to impact our community and our families, and I know you've been through this in the studies and all the different things going through school, but how important is it for our families to engage our young people with reading and this type of dialogue with the library and getting them involved young? How important that and how much does that impact our young people?
Yeah, I mean, reading is very important. And I wish I could be one of those people that can like quote like people and then say, this is where I got that quote, but and like say it exactly. But I remember hearing someplace where somebody said, if you don't read anything, then you're only going to know what people want you to know, right? Like, so the thing about reading is that you can look up something and find out whatever you want almost. And, it's something that you're doing, right? Like if you're just watching like a TV show, they're telling you what they want to tell you. So like, reading allows you to find what you want and to, broaden your mind. I don't know. I'm probably not doing justice to the question, but
It's okay. See, when you with the family, both sides, we get what you said.
Yeah.
But what I want to do is I definitely want to connect with you, because one of the things that I want to do that I believe is so powerful, and I know there's some out there, but here in San Francisco, I want to bring back book clubs to the community, and I want to see how we can engage. And I've never set one up, so I'm not the guy that knows how to do all that. But I definitely would like to speak with you offline and to figure out how do we shape in our communities a book club where we can, get these ebooks or these books to community. We read and come back as a group and just talk about the book, especially when we start talking about the deep stuff of mental health and trauma, some of the things that you talked about earlier that really impact our community. Because we hear the slogan so many times, if you want to highlight something from the Negroes, put it in the book, right? Now we want to extract that. Let's get the books. Let's educate the people. And that's what this presentation is about here every Thursday, is just trying to intentionally get our community information, get them engaged. And it starts with things of that nature, right? But we have to make, like we said, mental health cool, but we have to make learning and education and literacy cool again, because so many times our community thinks is not needed, but I think it's very important. I think there's different pathways to get information to our people, with sometimes our local school boards and districts, they don't get it, right? And we learn different, but how do we create those learning hubs or those book clubs for these different age range and different groups to make it fun, especially if we're talking about the adult clubs or whatever, but just having something that we can convene and engage and actually benefit and take some information to really impact our community. So yeah, I want to find out how to set those up. I would love to see a couple of book clubs going on in our community, especially for our young people, having something cool, and we could kind of reward them some kind of way to be a part of it and have that engagement and impact them with that literacy.
Yeah, totally. I'd be so into that. That's why I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, just to let folks know that we're here and that we want to be in the community, and we want to encourage reading and the use of the library in the community. Yeah, so I was just reading this book called The Dawning of the, I mentioned this before, The Dawning Moon of the Mind, Unlocking the Pyramid Text from 2015. It's by Susan Brynd Morrow. And that book is a trip because it talks about how Egyptologists went into these tombs and sort of just made these translations of the text using their sort of already biased thinking, and like say, acting like oh, these old Egyptians back in the day, didn't know anything, and this is just gobbledygook, witchcraft, whatever, right? So this new person translated these texts in this tomb in Egypt, and it's supposed to be like the first religious text. And it's just like such a trip, showing like how, that they were always already thinking of like all this cosmology and like, I don't know, like, what happens when you pass away and you go up into the stars, and like, I don't know, it's just a trip. Like you wouldn't even, think about, I didn't even think about, it just blew my mind. I just had to mention that.
No, that's very fascinating stuff, and I think that's why it's so important to educate our young people and community about our history. But at times I do feel Black folks, we have too much history and not enough future. So I also want to make sure that we are learning about cryptocurrency and some of the futuristic things and automation, things that's really going to impact us the next 15 to 20 years. But I still think that our community has really lost a lot of our cultural and our history stuff. But again, just to empower our young people and let them know how important our people are. And, getting that information, Dr. Carolyn Scott, she has these book cards that has all of the information of all of the Black inventors, and really educating our young people about how much Black folks have invented. I mean, you talk about the pyramids. I mean, even the smartest mathematic engineer, they still can't figure out how the pyramids is standing and things of that nature. And that's just something historically that our people have been in tune with. And it's very frustrating at times when I hear young people say they're not good at math, or, the Asian community is great at math. And I go, wait a second, y'all don't understand. Black folks is very talented. We have done some amazing things that people still can't figure out. You look at GPS, Black woman, you look at some of the historic things that we use now. Even in technology. And I go, you guys have to use this energy and this knowledge that you have to really impact our futures and our cultures. And sometimes they know how great we are and they keep us out of these realms because we just take off and do things that they just, can't even imagine. I mean, my uncle Garland Bluford was one of the first astronauts to touch the moon. So I understand, science and different things of that nature. And it always amazes me when I see young kids, start getting this information that sometimes they don't get because of the lack of knowledge and information that our school districts present. And, I think this model that the library is doing, definitely with history, we need to have more and more trainings for our young people. It is sad when I hear my young people say they have to go to HBS, historic Black colleges to actually learn about our true history. Because here, in our school district, we teach about slavery and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, but we don't talk about some of the amazing folks that have impacted the Black community and impacted the world. And, how do we get that information to enrich our young people? Because I think the more we put this information, they understand their power and them being kings and queens and understanding some of the historic parts. I think some of the killings, some of the things that happen in our community when we love each other and really understand the struggles and put it together with the current time. I mean, I think we can move our communities forward.
Yeah. I mean, that's why what Effie Morris was fighting against was so important, because, it's like the structure doesn't want us to know we're great, right? So that's why we got to, constantly push against that structure and, change the story, which I think, it's a movement around here too, is change the story.
Yeah, and that's our part here at both sides of the conversation, help change the narrative, make sure our community gets the right messaging and understand we are great, we are powerful, we are mighty, but we must, collaborate, not compete, uplift each other. And, it's a challenge because, again, the messaging that we see in here all day is negative and is divisive. But we're going to do our part to help insect some of that great positive information. And hopefully we can connect with you and some of the resources that the library have to really impact our young people. I would love to see more, book nights and different things of that nature as we get close to this winter time, as time start going back an hour and it starts raining, that we keep events going on to keep our young people active, where they could get out and exercise their minds. Because we know the only way we can break free is taking the chains off our brains. And it starts with information. It starts with reading. It starts with conversation. And this is very, very, very important stuff. So, thank you for coming on tonight. giving those resources out to the community. Now we can utilize that to help, as we navigate with community and talk about some of the services that you provide. Just really honored and thankful that you are here tonight. So now I can utilize the San Francisco Library to some of our community people, especially when it comes to the training and the job resources and the education part, to just connect our community. And that's what this is all about, just getting that information out there, bringing these intersections together so that our people have different opportunity to connect. And, I'm looking forward to connecting with you. I want to see what we could do, how we could create a book club, an African-American book club, and just have some great conversations and utilize that space as community to do something, because I think sometimes the library is underutilized by community. And sometimes we know it's overwhelmed with our less fortunate folks that's having struggled with homelessness and different things. But we want to make community feel comfortable to come down there, utilize the space, get to know the space, because it's not a lot of culture stuff here in the city for us. I know the African American Culture District is trying to do a lot of that stuff, but definitely we need to get down there and check this African American Culture Center out on the 3rd floor at the main library. Very, very important. But with that being said, Ms. Sherman, if there's anything else that you would like to say to community, please do now before we start closing out tonight's segment. We thank you for coming on. This was great information, and I'm definitely going to call Linda. Linda, I see you in the chat. I'm calling you.
Linda.
Hi,
Linda.
I want to check my library card, and I want to see, because I want to utilize some of these services.
Yeah, we better activate your card now, right? Let's. I just really appreciate this opportunity to say hi to the community and let you all know that we're here, and we're here to work for you. That's what we do as librarians. We work for the community. So really appreciate you all, and look forward to meeting you at the library or maybe in this book club that we're going to get started.
Right. Very powerful stuff. I mean, community, I'm excited to see a librarian who looks like me.
Yeah.
42 years in San Francisco, I've never seen a librarian who looks like me. So this is excitement for me. And I'm going to go down there and get my library card reactivated, or I'm going to start a new one. So that I can start utilizing some of the resources that is there. It makes no sense, community, for people to work so hard to put these resources out for community and we don't utilize them. And we have to change that model. And it starts here today with Ms. Sherman coming on, letting us know how to get connected, how to log in, go to the YouTube, connect with the San Francisco Library, utilize some of these services. Before we let you go, I know there was some part about policy change. Did you want to discuss anything about policy change or any of the policies? Because I know that was on there. Any changes that the community needs to know about, or hours? I know you starting to open back up, or is everything kind of the same?
So you can check our main page, on just a third of the way from the top. You can see all the hours. They're different for the branches. Main library is open. It's normal hours. No real policy changes except for the free printing and the fines free. We don't have any fines, so don't let that stop you from coming to the library.
All right. Don't be afraid, community. Go down to the library, reach out to the sister. The phone number information is up there. Don't be ashamed. Use the services, utilize the library. Go down there, ask questions. They have all type of events going on, resume writing. I've seen a number of things that they had on the site. So if you're coming back to the community, you're struggling with technology, please go down there and utilize the service. There are folks down there that can help you and get you in the right pathway. So very, very important stuff. Thank you again for coming on tonight. Very important stuff. Community, what a way to have another Educational Thursday to get information to our community. We will be out in the community again this Saturday. We'll be posting on our both sides of the conversation social media handles where we'll be at. We'll be at a number of events, so we'll be moving through the community one by one. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be live this Sunday for an important conversation about housing, bringing some of the issues up so community understands what's going on. How do we in solidarity work together, come together, hold these management companies accountable for some of the living conditions. It is an unhumane thing to have people living in such poor conditions in our city. It's a human rights issue. It's an issue that community, we have to stand together to combat. And we're going to do that, have that conversation this Sunday. We're going to bring some phenomenal guests on here, some of our residents who have been impacted, so that you can hear some of the struggles. Because when these issues happen, it's a community issue, and we need to be all involved, and we need to knock on the door of our elected officials and get them behind what's going on and making sure that they understand that there are problems, and we're not just going to sit back and let business go as usual with some of these housing management companies. So looking forward to that Sunday conversation. Hope to see you all there. And I'm just excited to see some of the things that are coming forward with this platform and what we're going to be doing to impact the community. More things to come. Hang in there, community, but we will do our part in changing the narrative and making sure that we have a resource hub to help uplift our community, get these information and resources out to community. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. We will see you all for our next live event this Sunday, and we'll be out in the community this Saturday. So check out our social media handles to see what event we'll be at. And thank you again, Ms. Sherman, for coming on. Y'all, look, we have a Black librarian in San Francisco. Go down there and meet the sisters. Say hi.
There's several of us. There's 3 of us on the 3rd floor.
There you go. Come down there and meet our sisters and get to know them. And any resources they can help you with, they'll be there to help you. So thank you very much. Have a great evening. Thank you for giving your time. So many times it is a challenge to get people who climb our educational ladder and our corporate ladder to take a hand back and uplift our community tonight. That's what you did. So we so thank you, and the work that you're doing to bless our community.
All right. Thanks.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.